if I even gave the tiniest little hint that I did something wrong, well, there you go. It's your fault.
In my head.
Hello everybody. If you're new here, I'm Ryan Liberty. I do videos on mental health Monday through Friday. There wasn't a video yesterday because it was cold and rainy and disgusting, but I kind of let everybody know in the last video that that was possibly going to be the case. But tonight, we're going to talk about responsibility and how that relates to our mental health. So if you like mental health, please go ahead and click subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell icon once you do that to get notifications of all of my videos. But we're going to continue walking, and then we're going to talk about some responsibility. Alright, so responsibility. I didn't really have anything in particular planned for this topic. It was just something that came to me, and I thought, oh, there's a cat going by. Let me see if I can show you the cat. Sorry, I can't resist a good cat. So I didn't really have a plan for this, but I thought it was important to talk about because a lot of the times when we're talking about something like denial, it's a defense mechanism, and responsibility is something that presents a lot. And I know that irresponsibility is a personality trait that's found in antisocial personality disorder. I do have a series on personality traits, and I'm really hardcore about this personality trait way of looking at things because I feel like it does give a more human perspective on things, and this channel is all about humanizing mental health. That's what I'm here for. So I like personally looking at people's personality traits as opposed to classifying them with a disorder, because it helps us see people more well-rounded, and irresponsibility is one of those personality traits, and it can really get in the way of healing. So I thought this would be a good topic to discuss. Responsibility. So, responsibility. Times when I have not felt responsible in my life was when I felt like people were accusing me of things that I couldn't control. I was encaptured by my emotions that I couldn't do anything to change them, and so whenever somebody accused me of doing something, or whenever something went wrong, I never felt like it was my fault. I never felt like I should have any blame. I always felt like I was just doing what I do. Like this is just how it is, you know. I got angry, I did what I did. You can't blame me for that because I got angry for a reason. So, and typically I thought that reason was you or something beyond my control, and so I was never at fault for anything. And living that way may have made me feel like I couldn't be attacked. There's a car coming. It probably made me feel like I never had to feel shame about anything. You know, I felt shame constantly, but I didn't like feeling shame. So I felt like, well, this is another way to kind of hold off the shame. And this wasn't like consciously going on in my head, but it was just kind of something kind of like lurking in the background of like, well, it's not my fault, it's your fault, and I don't have to deal with it. It's your problem. This is the way the world is, and I don't know what else to do. And having that kind of an attitude, I think, made me feel like it defended me from having to face things about myself. It defended me from having to feel pain, and that's something I want to get to. I want to talk about pain and how that relates to mental health. I'm going to keep walking, try to gather my thoughts a little, because it's always distracting when I'm out here. I wish it wasn't so distracting, but it is. But I'm going to walk, think about it, hopefully find a place where nobody's following me like last time, and then we'll see. Well, I went back to that place where they followed me because I had scared. What do you think you're doing? And I saw a truck that looked like the truck that followed me, and it had the town like logo on the side, so I'm thinking in some way they were town security or town something. I don't know what the hell they were, but so I'm just going to assume that's the explanation. But regardless, why are you creeping up to me, and why are you following me? Like, I was walking away. I wasn't even like stopped there or loitering or anything. So this is why I have mentioned I don't love the area that I live in. I do think they kind of like over police it, and they're a little aggressive on not wanting people to be in public spaces. I think that's BS myself, but it is what it is. Anyway, this video is going to be a little short because I had to like kind of reroute, because even though I went back there was a lot of noise and it just wasn't a good place to film. So I wanted to talk about pain and responsibility, and you know, I mentioned that irresponsibility is kind of a defense. It's this like, I'm not to blame, it's not my fault, it's your fault, it's the weather's fault, it's everybody else's fault, but it's not me. And part of the reason why we do that is because we're avoiding the pain of feeling like it's our fault, and there are a number of reasons why we might be avoiding that pain in the first place. So one reason might be that as a child we were always told it was our fault, and that was so painful because as a child you don't have defenses, you're just vulnerable to your parents or whoever's around you. The sprinklers are going on. So that's painful, and that's hard to deal with as a child, so you may start to feel like, well, everything else, it's everybody else's fault. I do recall a time in my life when I was a teenager, maybe like, was I even a teenager? No, I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I remember specifically getting upset about something and like clenching down. It's a very specific day that I'll never forget, and I was like, F it, from now on, like, this F everybody else. And I think that was the beginning of some irresponsibility for me. But I did that because I didn't want to take any responsibility that I had, that I didn't want to take any part that I had in anything, because that was uncomfortable for me. I'm kind of rambling a little here. I get very confused when I'm here for some reason. I think because I'm always scoping the area out to make sure that I'm not like got people around me. So it was too painful to think about what was my part in things. A lot of times this happens after a breakup. And actually, let me relay another situation that I've gone through, because this is more recent. So for those that don't know, in 2015, my ex and I broke up. He broke up with me. We were engaged. We were living together. And when he broke up with me, I felt like a lot of things were his fault, and I still believe a lot of things were his fault. I think there's a lot of stuff that he didn't acknowledge and probably will not acknowledge for a long time. I hope that I live to see the day when he does acknowledge those things. But in the meantime, I'm not waiting for that. So knowing that and feeling like I went, not just feeling, knowing that I went through emotional abuse. Multiple times he cheated on me. There was gaslighting, like a bunch of stuff going on. That's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about it here on this channel, although I don't talk about it as much lately. But coming out of that, it was hard for me to take any responsibility for the things that I did badly in the relationship, because I felt like if I even gave the tiniest little hint that I did something wrong, then other people, anybody who was observing this relationship was going to say, well, there you go. It's your fault. You should have done this. You should have done that. And they were going to just wipe clean anything that he had done. Because pretty much up until this point, and still continuing today, a lot of people in his life, to my knowledge, they've never acknowledged to me that he's done anything wrong. They never, even though I've come out and said he's cheated on me, he's done all this other stuff, nobody has come to me and said, like, you know, I understand he did some things wrong, and I understand that was hurtful to you, and I'm sorry that you went through that. And, you know, it's nobody's responsibility to do that. But for people who were closer to me, or at least I felt were closer to me, I felt like they probably should have said something. Anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about responsibility, my part, my responsibility. There's a car coming. So it was really painful for me to take responsibility to, hold on, this is one of those situations where they stop and confuse me. Maybe people just have really weird driving habits, but like that person went to the end of the street, stopped, there was nobody coming in either direction, and they just stayed stopped at the end of the street. So I didn't want to take responsibility for anything, because to admit guilt felt like then I was also accepting the abuse. It was almost like I was, and I want to get this right because I know so many people are going through this right now, and it sucks. It felt like if I said that I did anything wrong, like I said, that anything that he did wrong would not be looked at. It would all be blamed on me, and it would look like I was complicit in the emotional abuse, like I somehow deserved it, because I did X, so I deserve to be emotionally abused. That's kind of how it felt, and I didn't ever want it to come across that way, especially because the level of abuse that I endured really didn't compare to the stuff that I did towards him. But for a long time, I was very defensive, and there were people who were trying to help me out of the situation, and they would question me and ask me things, and every time they would question me, I would get really angry and really like upset and like, you're not listening to me, you have to understand, this is the way it's going, and this is what happened. And it was defensive. You know, that's natural to be defensive, especially when we've gone through something traumatic like I did. I was also experiencing PTSD and some other symptoms at the time. The problem is when we get stuck in that defensive mode, when we have a personality disorder. And that's our typical pattern of relating, is to take irresponsibility and to feel like, well, I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't control my part in things. It wasn't my fault that I did that in reaction to you. It's all your fault for causing me to do that. That's something I think a lot of people who have the personality trait of irresponsibility do, is they say, well, you made me do this. I wouldn't be this upset if you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And this is tough because as adults, when we interact with each other, there's co-regulation going on. We are responsible for each other's feelings. The person who's most responsible for our feelings is us. We're able to say, using healthy boundaries, you know, right now this is too much for me, or I'm sad, I need your attention right now, please, can you give it to me? Or, you know, I just need a minute, I can't do this right now. Like, we have to take responsibility for how we're feeling. That's just, we are in the most control. However, environmental factors also play a part, and whoever we're interacting with, a friend, a coworker, a boss, a lover, a family member, whoever it may be, there's some co-regulation going on there. You know, if somebody comes at you, screaming at you, it's going to rile you up a little bit. It's going to throw you off. So, and likewise, if somebody's emotionally abusive, emotional abuse doesn't have to be yelling and screaming. Emotional abuse can be very subtle and quiet. That's also going to throw you off. So, yes, other people can affect your emotions. Ultimately, you're still responsible for deciding whether or not that person's in your life, at what capacity, what kind of boundaries you're going to set with them. And I do have a video about boundaries if you need to know what those are and how to set them. I know a lot of people have trouble with this. But we are responsible. We are responsible for the choices that we make in our lives, and it may be painful to accept that responsibility, but the alternative is to feel like we are always living our lives at the whim of somebody else and at the whim of what's going on around us, and to never feel like we have a say in our lives, and to never feel like we have control, and to never feel like we can do things. And that's a really sad trade-off for not feeling temporary pain, because it will be temporary, whatever pain it is that you're trying to avoid when you're feeling irresponsible. I'm going to take a quick little walk and see if there's anything else I have to add to this. This may be a short one. Maybe you're liking these short ones. And then we'll wrap it up, everyone. I think what a lot of people miss who avoid pain, I think what they miss is this understanding that pain is the pathway to change. You know, pain is very often the motivator that gets people to stop doing these poor mental behaviors, poor mental patterns, poor whatever, poor relationships in their lives. There's a car coming. And in that way, pain is something that's good for us. Pain can radically shift our whole lives. You know, if we, as I've mentioned, feel irresponsible and we always feel like other people are to blame, and maybe I should just kind of say, I'm going to get to this in a second, let me finish my thought. If we always feel like people are to blame, we always feel irresponsible, we feel very out of control, and we feel like there's no way to feel secure and safe in our world because there's nothing we can do about it. But if we would just feel the pain of having some responsibility, it also frees us up to have the choice of what to do with our lives and the choice of how to move forward and move into healthier behaviors, healthier patterns. Now, I do want to say, I don't believe in blame in the sense of when something goes wrong, we have to blame this person or that person. There's another car. I'm going to blame the car. Let's blame this car. There's another car. Let's blame that one too. I don't believe in blame. I don't believe we need to say whether it's one person's fault or another person's fault when something happens. You know, I do believe when it comes to like a judicial system, we need to be aware and we need to get people in the proper position to help them. I know that's not the way our judicial system is really set up here in the United States. At least it's not functioning that way. But I don't believe in blame to shame people. I don't believe in blame to harm people. And I think rather than look at blame as something to punish people, as may have been done to us as we were children or something, I would rather us take responsibility and see that everybody, at the same time, everybody is to blame and nobody's to blame. You know, sometimes things just happen. Sometimes it's the interaction between people that causes things to be not going so well. But if there's pain there, it's an indication that there's something we could be doing differently. And pain is actually a good thing. Pain can be an indication to us that it's time to start taking responsibility and start making some changes that are going to benefit us and everybody else around us. Okay, so I want to hear from you now, of course. What is your thought about all of this? Do you think that pain is a way to change, like I've been talking about? If you're somebody who struggles with being irresponsible, who feels like nothing's ever their fault, who never wants to admit when they do something wrong, could you please share your story below for the community? Because I know this is something that people aren't really talking about that much, and I know people struggle with it. And it would be good for us to hear what your situation has been like. If you're new here, please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell after you subscribe. I do mental health videos Monday through Friday. I hope you've liked this one. And if you'd like to support me, I do have a Patreon page. I got a new patron today. Hello, hello, you know who you are. I don't really like to announce it unless somebody kind of wants me to, but hi. Thank you. I do appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow with a new mental health video. Thanks, everyone.